30 minutes of wit, wisdom, and hellfire. Your calls are welcome at 613-413-2217 or email info@lgreen.ca. Now, here is Lowell Green.
Great balls of fire. What the hell is $1 trillion anyway? Who cares? How about 2 trillion, 3? Let's make it 4 trillion. What do you have? Oh, my God. We're going to spend pretty close to $500 billion more than we take in next year in this country, but nobody seems very concerned about it. I mean, what the hell, right? I mean, we don't have to pay for it. We'll never pay for it. It's our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids, and their grandkids. If anybody has any thoughts about the budget yesterday, I doubt it very much, but the lines are wide open. They're always wide open on this show. Nobody ever wants to talk to me. I don't know. I'm going to go out and eat onions or something. The number to call is 613-413-2217. Absolutely anything you want to talk about, folks. Lines are wide open. So is the text. John, just go through how people text, and they can also get me on Facebook Live. Are we on Facebook Live? By the way?
Yeah, we've got you everywhere.
Wonderful.
So yeah, if you find Lowell on Facebook, so he's Lowell. What are you? Lowell.green.56. The link. Just go to BlastTheRadio.com/LowellGreen. All the links are there. But yep, call or text the same number 613-413-2217. Email Lowell@BlastTheRadio.com.
And be world famous. You see, this is why this Prime Minister is so wonderful. I told you yesterday, and I've said again on Facebook, that I am trying very, very hard. I'm working very hard night and day, just as does the Liberal government, working very hard for you. What I'm trying to do is learn to love, well, if not love, at least love or like this government, and in particular this Prime Minister. I mean, what the heck? Everybody else in the country likes the guy. There's got to be something there. I'm trying to find it. So I'm not getting really a whole lot of cooperation here from the public, I must say. I'm getting a lot of response, but a lot of it's not very helpful, John. I mean, suggestions like give yourself a lobotomy or stick a nice pick up your nose and twirl it around. Like, that's not very helpful stuff, I'm trying hard here. This is the Liberal way. I'm trying. I'm working on your behalf, trying to find ways to really appreciate, if not love, at least like this government. I've got to get in step here. I've got to be a better person. If anybody has any idea how I might go about that, please give me a call. Once again, the lines are there. 613-413-2217. And please don't give me the lobotomy advice, okay? We have a phone call already. If this is about a lobotomy, sir, I'm just going to hang up on you. Anything else is acceptable. What's on your mind here? Who we got?
Well, it's Howard. I'm not going to give you a lobotomy. I might want a lobotomy after we're done, but hey, that's another story.
I really love, can you imagine the mental image? This guy says, if you really want to like Trudeau, all you got to do is stick an ice pick up your nose and twirl it around.
Exactly.
Right, okay. What's on your mind, Howard?
Well, I'll tell you what. You told me to call my local MPs last week. I did. What's her name? Marie Lalonde.
Well, yeah,
Couldn't take a call, but I emailed her, and I asked her what the hell's going on, what's up with our Prime Minister. We, as Canadians, deserve better than this. You know what her response was, finally? I just got her an email back from her this morning. And
they're working very hard for you.
Well, she sounded like it was Justin Trudeau that was standing right behind her as she typed out the email. I mean,
Probably
it was just his words. And I replied right back to her going, I thought I was talking to Marie Lalonde, not JP Trudeau. I said, this is ridiculous. I go, you gave me a scripted answer that he probably gave you to, anybody that's complaining about this. But I did one step further. I put Aaron O'Toole on the copy. So I'm hoping Aaron O'Toole might step in and do something about this ridiculous. But I got to tell you, I work with a lot of Americans. I work from home in Canada, but everybody I work with is on the American side. Okay. And we just had a big conversation about this today. Right. And I said, I'm just disgusted that we're going to be like probably the last to get, the vaccines. And I said, you guys are going to get the vaccines probably in about 2 weeks from now, or so. He said, no. He goes, I don't think you're getting the full fact here. He goes, we might have the vaccine ready, but we have no way to ship it. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to get, minus 70 or minus 40 to different locations. How are they going to store it? It's a thing right now that everybody's up in arms with, apparently in the U.S.
Well, that's not the information that we've got. As a matter of fact, health officials in the United States said only today that they expect that a good number of Americans will have the vaccine before Christmas. Anyway, it's interesting, the amount of negativity over the vaccine. I mean, the vaccine is the light at the end of the tunnel. Either we get vaccinated or we continue to wear masks for the rest of our lives. I mean, make up your mind on this. And one of the things that Aaron O'Toole raised yesterday that I thought was very important, he pointed out that we really can't budget for the future unless we have better understanding of vaccination. In other words, if we know roughly how many people will be vaccinated next year, that will have a direct bearing on the budget. In other words, the more people who are vaccinated, the more people can go back to work. The less government money will have to be pumped out to help them, et cetera, et cetera. So the question concerning vaccination is very germane. It's very important, very central to the budget. We cannot really properly budget unless we know or have a good idea how many people are going to be vaccinated. I thought it was a very good point.
Absolutely,
you know what, Howard?
I
love your call, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Bye. Now, there's a very interesting discussion going on right now, a very interesting debate that I wouldn't mind some input from some of you on this. And I'm addressing, I know that some of the people who are listening right now and watching are anti-vaxxers. I'm not going to take the vaccine. It's got some stuff in it. I don't know. I'm amazed. I mean, we've got people who say, I'm not taking the vaccine because I don't know what's in it. Wait a minute. You've been eating bologna all of your life and you're not going to take the vaccine because you don't know what it's in it? Do you know what's in a Pop-Tart? This is John Mielke's favorite line. He says, talking to people who say, I'm not taking the vaccine because I don't know what's in it. Wait a minute. You don't know what's in a Pop-Tart either.
Or a hot dog.
Or a hot dog. Jeez. Have any idea? I have an idea what goes into a hot dog.
I don't want to know.
But it's quite amazing. Mind you, I have an idea, a pretty good idea, that as soon as these anti-vaxxers find out that they can't get on an airplane or they can't go to a blues concert without vaccination or can't go back to work, that they'll change their mind. But there is a very interesting ethical question here. What do you think? Should anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, or in fact anybody who refuses to follow public health rules, should they voluntarily step to the back of the line as far as hospital care goes if there is an emergency? Very, very interesting. Sharon Kirky writes about it today in the Ottawa Citizen. Her story is headlined, "Should anti-maskers volunteer to go to the back of the line for care?" She writes, keeping in mind the growing number of anti-mask demonstrations, the large maskless parties police have to break up, many people are asking whether those who flout or publicly protest pandemic public health measures should willingly forfeit medical care in favor of those who play by the rules should hospital resources become strained. Arthur Kaplan, founder of a medical ethics center at the New York University School of Medicine, says, "We're not saying don't treat. What we are saying is if you're going to run around and claim exemption to endorsed and established behavior policy, you should volunteer, if you get sick, to go to the end of the line." Very interesting. Kaplan argues that while most of us are diligently and heroically adhering to public health rules and regulations, thousands of others haven't grasped the gravity of the situation or believe the economic consequences of stay-at-home orders disproportionately outweigh the health benefits. But, says Kaplan, there are no free-for-alls in a plague, and a threat to others justifies limitations on individual civil liberties. Should people willingly engage in behaviors known to potentially harm others, then if you get sick, you should have an obligation to think about saying, look, let others go before me because I wasn't responsible. If you're he says, and this is very interesting, I'd like some opinion on this. He says, quote, if you are a real believer in liberty, then you should say, I'll pay the price. If I haven't followed the rules, I will pay the price. He says, at a minimum, protesters should sign a pledge stating that they are willing to forego medical care should emergency rooms or intensive care units become saturated. Patrick Henry's famous proclamation to give me liberty or give me death. Remember that? Well, he didn't say give me liberty. If that doesn't work, give me a scarce ventilator. Very interesting. Very interesting comments. So what do you think? I'd like some text messages, maybe even a phone call on this. Should anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, those who refuse to follow the rules for whatever reason, should they agree to voluntarily go to the back of the line? Should people who are following the rules, doing everything they can to avoid spreading the disease, should they get preferential treatment in our hospitals if it's required? If people willingly refuse to follow the rules and as a consequence become ill, should they volunteer to go to the back of the treatment line? What do you think? 613-413-2217. Any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from some anti-maskers, some I read them all the time. I see them. You got some emails or texts there, John?
Paul agrees about hot dogs being wonderful. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very, very much. Craig agrees with that sentiment 100%. I believe he's talking about back of the line.
Step to the back of the line.
Yeah.
If you're not following the rules, you don't believe it. If you get sick, step to the back of the line. Okay.
Paul says
Any other comments?
Yeah, Paul says to apply the same rule to people who smoke or are too fat. Hey, now, Paul, I may be the latter. Careful.
Well, actually, to be honest, I'm going to give you some information. I became very good friends with Dr. Wilbur Keon, founder of the Heart Institute.
Yep.
I became pretty good friends with him. And I'll never forget, during one interview, he told me quite frankly that if he would not operate, he would not do a heart transplant or serious heart operations on a smoker if they did not pledge in writing to stop smoking. And I'm going to tell you right now that when I went in for my heart operation, it was in fact, I think it was the first question I was asked. Are you a smoker? No, I said never have been. Good. I honestly believe, to be honest with you, because surgery I had was nip and tuck whether they were going to do it or not. I honestly believe, and they never said this, but I suspect that if I was a smoker, that I wouldn't be here today, that they would not have operated. So some of those rules, maybe not exactly spelled out, although Dr. Wilbur Keon certainly spelled it out. As far as obese people, very good point. I must tell you that I have to shake my head. I was in I know there's more emails coming in. I was in the emergency ward at the Queensway Carleton about 2 weeks ago. And I waited there about 3 hours. And I swear to God that at least half the people who were in there were so fat they could hardly fit in the wheelchairs. And I know it's I probably shouldn't say this, but you really have to wonder, if people continue to do that to themselves. And anyway, I better move on here. But as far as smoking goes, I've told you that I think some of those rules already exist. John, you have some more text there.
I don't know if you even know what Twitch is, but you are live on Twitch right now. We have
Okay. Hello, Twitch. Hello, Twitch. What the hell is Twitch?
Twitch is it started out for gamers, but it's become a real amazing place for talk shows and podcasts. And we stream to it on Blast the Radio, so we just port your show over to that every single day. So you're on our feed.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It seems to be a new one of these every day almost.
Pretty much. But this one's huge. And Soft Tulips says...
Soft tulips?
Yes, Soft Tulips.
Okay.
The anti-vaxxers will be the first ones in line. Don't make any mistake about that. Soft Tulips also adds Americans have plans for things like that to deploy the supplies. Look at a hurricane. The National Guard has supplies close to ground zero.
Actually, that's a very good point. I've talked about this before, but the first people in during the terrible hurricane 2 years ago in Freeport, the Bahamas, was the United States. Within 2 or 3 days, they had set up an entire hospital, tent hospital, because the hospital in Freeport had been inundated with water, was virtually destroyed. Within 3 days, Americans had moved in with a big major tent hospital, doctors, nurses, supplies, equipment, etc., etc., etc. Don't tell me that they can't move on this. They certainly can, and I've seen evidence of it. There are people alive today in Freeport, including one of my friends, who would not be alive were it not for the Americans and their swift action. So I'm glad that you reminded me of that. Who is that? Sweet Tulip? Who is that?
Soft Tulips.
Soft Tulips.
Soft Tulips, who is new on my Twitch feed and just has added, Twitch is huge. There you go.
Sounds like a pseudonym to me.
Yeah. No, that's a good Christian name, isn't it? We've got more. You're okay?
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Yes, I should stop laughing here. I just make myself choke.
We've got James wanting you to take the show to 45 minutes today.
If we could get some phone calls, I could do that. There's no question about
deal,
it. Although I'm glad that we're getting texts. It seems to be the wave of the future. Nobody knows how to phone anymore,
except Howard.
Talking about that, I have to tell you a little story. This is a true story. A couple of years ago, I was born in the United States. I mean, I moved to Canada when I was, I guess, about 6 months old. My dad was at the University of Michigan, and I was born at the university as a failed experiment, according to my father. But at any rate, so I'm born in the States, and last 3 or 4 years, every time I would travel, to go to the Bahamas, have to go through the States, they would tell me, Lowell, you're born in the States. You should get an American passport. So I did. Anyway, so I go, and it was very easy to get the U.S. passport. They were very good. But I'll never forget, my wife's got to park away, and I don't know how long I'm going to be in there. And it's a bitterly cold day, okay? So I come out. I've got my passport, U.S. passport. I'm out on the street in Sussex, and I've got a phone. I don't have a cell phone. I don't know how to use it. So my wife has very carefully showed me how to use the cell phone, right? Right. So she's around someplace waiting for me to phone her. So I come outside, 20 below zero, fierce bloody wind. Okay, I can't figure out how to use the damn phone. I'm punching away. I can't get it to work. I'm not a very patient man. I'm mad and everything else. I'm mad and swearing at the damn thing. And the guard, there's a big guard there. He's got a gun. And he comes up to me and he says, "Sir, can I help you?" I said, "Yes, you can. Do you know how to use the cell phone?" And he says, "Yes, I do." So I gave him the number and he phoned my wife. Anyway, I don't know whether it's got to do with the age or just plain stupidity, perhaps a combination. Shields. I got to talk about Shields here, okay? Yeah, do you want some more texts coming in here, John?
We've got lots to go to, so why don't we talk about Shields and we'll come back to what I got lined up for you.
Why don't you do the commercial for Shields?
I will happily do a commercial for Shields.
Listen, in the market, for any kind of an appliance, all right? Big appliance, major appliance, little appliance, medium-sized appliance, expensive appliance, more reasonably priced appliance. They've got them all at Shields. This is something I've never mentioned before. All the price ranges. Mark Shields, the last time I was in there, was showing me, I think it was a washer or dryer that had about a 40-year guarantee on it and very, very expensive. And he said, you know what? Some people still demand this. Probably liberals, they can afford it. But at any rate, whatever the price range, they've got it all at Shields. Everything that you need is there in stock. Delivery within 2 or 3 days, no matter where you are. Delivery glad to Ottawa, right down to Cornwall, as far as Barry's Bay. Shields.ca. Shields, SCHEELS.ca. Some more text here, John.
Soft Tulips, by the way, is Peter Plumley of Pembroke.
Oh, I know Peter. Peter runs or has something to do with a special group up in Pembroke.
Neat.
God knows they need groups in Pembroke. No, I'm just joking. It's a great town.
There you go.
Yeah.
Howard says, tell Lowell I received his book and laughed at the part where a hamster stopped him from going over to CKOY. It's a great read so far.
That's a true story. A little hamster changed the whole broadcast history in this city. That's true. And by the way, at the end of this program, I have another little revelation that I've never revealed before that has to do with broadcast history. John, have you got some more there?
I got lots more. Steve says, I took asthma shots from age 1 to 7. I have had an asthma-free teen in adult life. It was worth every needle shot I took. That's Steve. Sonia says, this is a very slippery slope. Not everyone gets fat on purpose. Some people suffer from various invisible illnesses that cause people to gain weight. There are plenty of anti-vaxxers who don't vaccinate their children. Why should a child suffer because of a parent's ignorance?
Very true. And by the way, in that regard, I'm hearing from anti-vaxxers, I'm not going to vaccinate. Yeah, okay. And I asked one, I was talking with one a couple of days ago, and I said, you don't want to take the vaccine yourself. Didn't have any children. I said, do you have a father or grandfather? Well, my grandfather is in a long-term care. I said, would you help your grandfather get the vaccination then so that they could live a normal life and you could go and visit them? That stopped her cold. She'd never thought of that before. It's all very well for you to say, oh, I'm not going to take it, but would you deny it for people in long-term care? Would you deny it to your children so that they could go off to school not worrying about coming down with this? A lot of questions. But the other question, I'm really intrigued by this. I wish we could get some people who would comment on whether those who refuse to wear the mask, refuse to follow the rules, and there are plenty of them, whether they should agree voluntarily to go to the end of the treatment line if the hospital is really jammed up. Should you even sign something saying, look, I'm not going to wear a mask, I'm not going to distance, I'm not going to do all of those things. However, if I get sick, I am willingly going to go to the end of the line. I would love to hear from some of you anti-vaxxers whether you're prepared to do that. John, on another topic, I have to tell you, I'm really puzzled why it appears that hardly anybody seems upset or even concerned over the fact that other people around the world are going to receive this vaccination long before we do. In the States, they plan to have about 20 million people vaccinated by the end of December. Maybe they won't make 20 million, but they're now telling us that there are going to be people vaccinated before the end of December. My understanding is that the UK may start vaccinations as early as tomorrow or certainly by the end of the week. Some Americans will be free to hold Christmas parties without fear, leave their long-term care facilities without fear, et cetera, while our seniors, unless they get vaccinated, will be essentially cooped up, unable in many cases even to receive visitors, unable to go to Christmas parties. No matter where you stand on this anti-vax, I mean, would you really agree to that? Would you really not agree to help your grandfather or your father or your children? I'm really surprised about that. And I'm very surprised that most Canadians don't seem concerned. Most Canadians don't seem to care. Whether you agree with vaccination or not, the mere fact that we're sort of at the back of the bus.
Hello, I'm Elke de Klerk from the
I can't believe that doesn't bother people. I just don't get it. Our number is 613-413-2217. Got to take a moment here, talk about my other sponsor. Thank you very much, Centennial Glass. These one of the reasons that this springs to mind right now is that we've got, in order to protect our patio doors, we've got to put up plywood because the ice comes down off the roof, smashes through. It's happened twice. Centennial Glass has come to our rescue. I don't want to have to call them out again on a Sunday, but I'm going to tell you, if you have an emergency of any kind involving glass, give Centennial Glass a call. 24 hours a day of emergency service. They'll be there. They'll have it. You just tell them what the problem is. They'll have people there that can fix the problem, and no matter what it is, if it involves glass furniture, custom-made glass furniture, Mirrors, beautiful mirrors, glass showers. We have a glass shower here just around the corner that comes from Centennial Glass. Really, really happy with it. CentennialGlass.com here in Ottawa on Industrial Avenue. And don't forget Centennial Glass in Renfrew as well. Now, there's always a debate at this time of year. John, I understand you have an artificial tree because you have an asthma problem in your house. I understand.
No, there's an allergy problem.
Allergy problem.
Yep.
I don't care. I mean, it's of no significance to me. People want a plastic tree or for many reasons. You're in an apartment. I understand you want an artificial tree.
And by the way, we have 5 of them. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm just.
But
saying.
I want to acquaint people to something that's very important. A lot of people don't get a live tree because they think somehow or other it damages the forest and thus damages the environment. I have an very interesting email that came in from Grace in Nepean. She says, Mr. Green, just read your latest book, was particularly interested in the chapter which explains how buying a real Christmas tree actually helps our forests and helps the environment. Perhaps you could explain a bit more on your show. Yeah, and I'm going to do this. Just got a minute to do it. A lot of people don't know that. If you buy a real live tree, you're actually helping the forest. Here's why. Christmas trees grow at a rate of about a foot a year. So that means if you go in and you cut or have cut a 7-foot high tree, there's got to be 7 other trees in the ground. There's got to be one, of course, as soon as you cut the tree, there's got to be another one to replace it. But there's got to be one that's 6 foot high, in other words, 6 years old, so that next year it'll be 7 feet. So for every tree that's cut, there's got to be 7 in the ground. It's a lot of people don't understand that. And by the way, there's also another chapter in the book that I believe is one of the most encouraging things that we've seen. You know how a lot of the environmentalists or pseudo-environmentalists are claiming that the forests, we're destroying our forests? It's not true. I can't go into I don't have time to go through, but it's fully documented and all the data is there in the book. But in fact, our forests are growing. As a matter of fact, our forests, worldwide forests, have grown by about 7% since 1989. 7%. Do you know how much that is? That is about the combined area of Texas and Alaska. That's how much more forests we have now than we had before. All right. I said that what time? Oh, we have. Okay, you have some more text. Go ahead, John.
First, an explanation and apology to the listener. Some audio leaked onto the air there. That was Dave sent me some article about how 87,000 doctors and nurses have come out against COVID-19 vaccine, and I clicked on it. So that's what that was.
87. That's nonsense. Yeah. Where do those false stories start?
That's from a wonderful website that I've never heard of called BitChute.com. I have no idea.
You know, why people would spread that kind of stuff is just absolute madness. I mean, people who do that should be hung, strung, put in bed, and their collective arses pulled over their heads. You know it's a lie. Millions of doctors, nurses, health authorities, scientists around the world say, get the vaccine, all right? It just drives me crazy. Anything else?
We've got an email from Lisa in Ottawa. She says, I don't think I'll be too worried about anti-vaxxers. Why? Well, because it's simple. Once the vaccine is available to all, then anyone without the vaccine may find themselves in criminal charges against them or possibly punitive damages to victims who've suffered as a result.
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get to that. But there's no question that if you don't get vaccinated, you probably won't be able to get onto a plane. You probably won't be able to travel internationally. Other countries won't let you in. Whether you'll be able to go to work, I doubt very much. I mean, if you have an office and you know that you haven't been vaccinated, will they let you in the office? I don't know. But it seems to me that anybody using your head, this is if you want to return to normal, a vaccine is the only hope we've got. It's either a vaccine, folks, or a mask for the next, rest of your life. This virus is not going to go away on its own. It's only going to spread more and more and more. It's not going to go away. The only way it can go away is the way polio went away, and that's vaccinated away. All right. I just want to have one more little topic here. The Westgate Shopping Center. This is a very historic, kind of sad in a way. You see they're tearing it down. It's redevelopment. They're going to have, 5 big new towers there. It's going to be retail and residential. It's going to be a slow process, apparently. But I don't know how many of you people understand that the Westgate Shopping Center is very historic. It was the first shopping center in Ottawa, built in then opened in 1955. One of the first shopping centers actually in Canada. That's how recent they are. A lot of memories for me because my mentor, the man who hired me, and one of the reasons that I'm still around this city, Campbell McDonald, the late Campbell McDonald, was news director at CFRA. And every day at noon, 12 noon, some of you may remember, he read the 12 o'clock news. It was a major newscast, which I prepared and wrote, and the Miss Westgate restaurant. It was my job to get the newscast into Campbell's hands, but he was the world's worst procrastinator. I was usually pushing him down the stairs to jump in his car and get to the Westgate Shopping Center about 5 to 12 or at 12 o'clock broadcast. God help him if he couldn't find a close parking spot. He usually started the broadcast rather breathless. But the reason this is so important to me, I've never told this story before. John doesn't know this. In fact, I just told my wife this morning. Sometime in late 1965, Campbell is the news director. He's hired me. He's my mentor. I owe him a great deal. I was in the Civic Hospital. I had seriously damaged my knee, so I was laid up for maybe a week, 10 days. Frank Ryan apparently was not a very patient man. He didn't feel that I should be paid for that time. Campbell, somehow or other, he and Campbell argued, listen, Lowell, etc. At any rate, it ended up with Campbell either being fired or leaving. He insisted that I should be paid. We didn't have sick leave in those days, but he insisted that I should be paid as a loyal worker and employee. Frank Ryan didn't want to. They had a big dispute, and Campbell left, went down to Toronto and on to greater things. So I wouldn't be here were it not for the late Campbell McDonald. So that's the first time I've ever told that story. Frank Ryan was a very innovative man, but he was very, very volatile. You just never knew with Frank, believe me. He was a visionary, but he was a very volatile one, believe me. But Campbell McDonald, I think that Campbell still has some relatives, perhaps some children in this city. I just want you, if you're listening, or someone can pass the message on, I owe a great, great deal to your father and your grandfather. Thank you all. Thank you, John. We'll be back tomorrow.